Warning, we are a spoilers podcast. At times we are also an offensive podcast. And we are most certainly a verbally explicit podcast. So if you fear for any of your delicate sensibilities, please back up now before you reach the point of no return. Alright, pussies, this is your final warning.
Hello and welcome to Cinematic Anarchy, and today we are going to be having a discussion about cinemas, rental stores, video places, and with us today we have one of our favorite podcasts. We have Sarah from Two Chicks Talkin Flicks, who I listen to on rotation while I work constantly.
Yay! Hi, everybody!
I was going to say hello, and then I just stopped. My brain went out. Wasn't I just talking about this, going deer in the headlights?
It's alright.
I've got to stop that.
It happens to the best of us.
It happens to me too frequently. Way too frequently. So no edibles before the podcast anymore. Because it doesn't help at all. Nothing. It doesn't generate conversation. It kills it. I know we've got a few little stories here to trade in regards to our theater experiences and video store experiences and just kind of the community of film in general.
Yes.
And I'm going to go ahead and let you start, because you told me you had a fun little story regarding some work in a theater that you did.
Yeah. So growing up, I went to the theater on Air Force Base. And I don't know if you've ever been to one, but they're cheaper, so it's kind of like $1 movie theater. So you get the movies a little bit later than like the normal theater, right? And so then years later, I actually ended up working at that same theater. And when you go to a base theater, so my dad took my mom on a date, and he took her to the base. And he forgot to tell her something very key. So before the movie starts, the national anthem plays. So immediately everybody stands up because they all know about this. Well, my mom doesn't, because she'd never been there before. And so she's sitting and she's just like, what is happening? My dad's like, stand up. Stand up.
So they all stand up before the movie, like as if you were like going to a ball game or a sporting event?
Yeah. Oh, so they all stood up, and then the national anthem plays, and then they sit down and they watch the movie. But he didn't tell her, so she's just like, what is happening? Why are we standing?
I mean, we have a couple of theaters around here like that, like dollar theaters where you can go to see, like, I want to call like second run movies where they're not in the main theaters anymore. They move to the secondary theaters where you go to see movies for like $1 to $1.99.
Yeah.
We have a few of those around here, but I don't think I've ever seen one where they make you stand up for the national anthem.
Well, it's because it's a military base, so that's why it's run by them. And when I worked there, you know, people would bring their friends, and they'd be like trying to get into the theater, but as soon as that national anthem starts playing, we can't let anybody in. So you just see people like holding popcorn and drinks, just standing there at attention, waiting to go in. It's quite the sight if you know what's going to happen.
So it's like a lockdown, like a 3 to 5 minute lockdown while they play the national anthem, and you're just standing there with your food waiting to get your seat?
Pretty much. And so that was one story. You know, I have a lot of working there at the theater. Like, we'd have to change the marquee, but it was really far away from our building. So we would have to take a shopping cart. And this happened every weekend, even in the winter. So we'd have to take a shopping cart, fill it with all the letters that we need. So we'd have to write down what movies are going to be there, what times, and we'd have to pick out all these letters from these little plastic pieces, right?
Okay.
And then we'd have to trek all the way to the end of this huge parking lot, because, like, we shared a giant parking lot with 4 other buildings. And so we'd go all the way to the end, to the street, and we would have to take the suction cup thing and slap it against these plastic pieces and try and get it down. And if it was cold, you know how it gets when things are frozen, you'd have to lick it and slap it.
Oh.
Or like breathe on it.
I'm picturing like the kid that gets his tongue stuck to the pole on A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be licking things in the middle of the winter.
Oh.
No.
And the worst part is that we were 16. Me and my best friend, we worked there together, which is probably never a good idea. But we worked there with another boy. He was a year older. So we're 16, he's 17. Or maybe 17 and 18. Doesn't really matter. But they would leave us alone all weekend long. So it'd just be the three of us running this theater by ourselves, which is never a great idea.
I mean, they had to have a projectionist too, right?
We did, but he stayed upstairs. So I had been up to the projection office a few times. It was pretty cool up there. I think he had his own bathroom. It was a nice little setup, but he never really came down. He didn't bother us. He just kind of did his stuff, and that's it.
Like, how large was the theater?
It was just a one-room theater.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, so, 3 people for a one-room theater isn't too bad.
No, but no supervision is probably the worst thing.
Yeah, I guess that's probably not the best thing, to leave a bunch of people unsupervised running a theater.
Yeah. Especially teenagers.
I mean, I'd get in a lot of trouble. I definitely would. I've never worked specifically in a movie theater. Most of my experience comes from working in, like, rental places. I've worked for Blockbuster. I've worked for a couple of local places around here. And I always managed to get into trouble because I'd have, like, almost every place that I've been, they allow you to pick the movies to put on the TV screens around the way. Blockbuster, you couldn't get away with much.
Oh.
But the little mom and pop shops, I'd have, like, my buddies coming over and just kind of hanging out and eating snacks and watching movies. And we'd be putting on some pretty bad stuff, and we'd only have to turn it off when we knew a specific person coming in is definitely going to ring the alarm bell with my manager.
Yeah.
But, like, we'd be watching some pretty rough material, like terrible horror movies, some 80s R-rated comedies that you definitely shouldn't be playing with anybody but adults in the building.
Did you ever watch Dawson's Creek?
I have watched Dawson's Creek, yes.
So Pacey worked at, or I think Dawson and Pacey worked at a movie rental store.
They did,
and they would just sit there and watch movies all day. I don't know. That's what made me think of it.
Sorry,
I'm talking.
First thought in my head was like Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah, Clerks. Yeah.
You know, just hanging out at the video store all day. Randall was the one that ran the video store, though.
Yes.
I actually got to watch the third Clerks movie recently, and honestly, like, of all the Clerks movies, probably my favorite.
Really? I haven't seen it yet.
I actually got to see it. We went down with my daughter and my son to the, is it not the Wang Theater? I'm trying to remember the name of the theater that we went to down in Boston. We actually got to see a theater showing of it where Kevin Smith came out and did Q&A afterwards with Brian O'Halloran.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think I showed a couple pictures of it on the Instagram site. But honestly, I've loved film for a good portion of my life. I've always been a really big fan of Kevin Smith. To see him in person, you know, and we got a couple of signed things. I think I've got a Quick Stop shirt that I bought somewhere around here. But that was just one of the best experiences I've had in a theater in a long time. Just seeing him, like, I was 2 rows away.
Was he just as cool in person?
He was amazing, but the Q&A was all of 3 Qs. Because the A portion was long. He loves to talk. He has, 8 podcasts. I
actually had tweeted at him. It was, I think, my first tweet I ever tweeted. And I had this idea that they should have a Batman and Robin movie with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck playing themselves. But every time the bat signal went out, it would be the 2 of them. And I thought that he should it'd be called Being Batman and Robin. And this was before he was Batman.
I could see Ben Affleck playing a more comedic version of Batman. I would love that. I don't need the stoic version that everybody else plays.
But, like, when they come to rescue people will be like, you're Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They're like, we're helping you. I thought it'd be funny. He never tweeted me back.
Batman and Robin versus Blunt Man and Chronic. Or meets Blunt Man and Chronic. I could do that. That would be interesting. Because that's, like, right up his alley. He owns those characters. I think he would have to work particularly hard to get the permission to do some kind of DC spoof.
Yeah, probably.
I think you got to get licensing to be able to do that. So, let me ask you a quick question. What is your earliest theater memory? Like the first movie that you saw in a theater that you can remember?
It would have to be Bambi.
Bambi.
Yes.
Okay.
One summer at the base theater, same theater, my uncle came to stay with us for the summer, and my parents would give him money to babysit me, and he would take me to the theater because while I was watching the movie, he was getting and talking with girls because they thought it was so cute that he was with his little sister, and he'd be like, no, I'm her uncle. And they're like, oh, that's so cute. And so I saw Bambi like 2 weeks straight, just every day.
Wow. That's a lot of Bambi. Like a lot of Bambi. I've only got one movie that I've seen way too frequently in the theaters. Like, I love the movie Titanic. I really do. However, when I first got to see Titanic, it was years before I could pick up that film again.
Really?
Because my little grouping of friends, I had several people that wanted to go to the movie and wanted to bring me along, and I couldn't convince them all to go at once. So I had seen 5 separate showings of Titanic within a 2-week span.
Oh, wow.
All right, so that was a little too much Titanic for my taste. And it was probably about 10 years later with my wife before I actually got to sit down and see it again.
That's kind of how I feel about popcorn. I loved popcorn. I loved it as a kid. That was like, I got, when I was like 3 or 4 years old, I got a popcorn maker.
Okay.
And I loved it. Well, fast forward, working at the movie theater, I hated popcorn for years. And then after I stopped working there and I moved and I was doing other stuff, I worked at Target right next to, and I mean right next to the popcorn machine itself.
Like right next to Food Alley?
Yeah, so where that wall ended was right where the popcorn machine was, and on the very next side of that wall was where the photo lab was, and that's where I worked. So I was right next to it.
So that odor of popcorn all day long just permeates. Like you can't get it out of your nasal passage. I know.
And it was burnt. They would burn it all the time, and I cannot stand burnt popcorn.
Burnt popcorn is the worst.
Years before I could eat popcorn again. I hated it so much.
I have thrown out many a microwave because of burnt popcorn accidents. You can't get the smell out. You're like, scrubbing and it just sticks.
As soon as you hear it kind of lag, just take it out. Just do it right then. Like, don't leave it.
Especially with the microwave popcorn, like you'll open the door and you'll just get this yellow napalm smoke that comes out of the microwave. It's horrible.
I hate it.
My earliest memory for going to a theater was actually a drive-in theater.
Ooh.
Empire Strikes Back, my apologies. Return of the Jedi.
Uh-huh.
Now, I remember this because it was a long drive, and I cannot remember for the life of me where this theater was, but I was living in Lowell at the time, and I believe it was this drive-in theater that still exists today, deep up in New Hampshire. And my mother and father took me in this wood-paneled station wagon.
Of course.
And what they did was they strapped a mattress to the roof. And they brought us up there, and my mother and father sat down below in the car, and I sat up above with a ton of snacks and one of my friends, and we just sat up there on the mattress, and I remember watching maybe half of the movie before passing out on top of the mattress. So it was a half watch of a Return of the Jedi, which to anybody that loves Star Wars is absolute sacrilege. You fell asleep during that? Yeah. Well, my first watching anyway.
Yeah, we used to growing up, we would go to the drive-in all the time because it was only open from like late spring to early fall because in Nebraska it gets cold too quickly. And so we would go, but they would play 3 movies. So it'd be like a old movie, a newer movie, and then the like newest movie. And so they would have all three. And you didn't have to pay for all three, but I think you could, like, people would leave or whatever. But it was always so much fun. I loved going to the theater or the drive-in.
I like the drive-in up here. I mean, they only do 2 movies, which is fine because now, going up there, we rarely ever get up there outside of maybe like mid to late summer into fall. And it is, it's a little bug-infested. So it's a nice time, but you got to keep your windows shut tight or you're going to get picked apart by the mosquitoes.
Yeah, we have one here. We actually have 2 in Texas that are like close by, and they're open all year round, but they only show 1 movie. You can't bring your own food, and after like April, it's too hot. So I don't know what people do until like October, but it is way too hot to be there. But people still go. I don't get it. It's really expensive, and it's too hot.
I mean, if they paved the lot up there, I'm sure that they could use it during the winter, but it's a dirt lot. So really, you can't do a whole lot with a dirt lot in the middle of the winter. Not to make it, I guess, livable for a drive-in anyway. You get a lot of people stuck real quick.
Yeah.
You were going to say something. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, sorry. So you said you worked at Blockbuster. I just have a fun little story.
Go ahead.
I applied for Blockbuster, and they told me I didn't have enough movie experience.
What?
I know. Yes, I didn't have enough movie They hired someone with more movie experience.
And what does that even mean?
You have got to be shitting me, because I I have a huge movie collection, most of which were bought at Blockbuster, and I worked at a movie theater. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. But yeah, they didn't hire me.
I feel like, personally, if you're going to work at a rental store, part of the interview, part of the process should be them taking you down the aisles of the store and just having you tell them about different movies that you've seen that are on the shelves.
Yeah.
That's how you gauge if a person has movie experience. Don't sit them down in front of a computer and have them give you a digital application.
Well, they did ask me movie stuff, and I answered, so I don't know what the problem was, but yeah, I was so upset. I was like, this is the first job I had never not gotten that I had applied for and interviewed for, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And if they were still in business, I would go to that store and be like, look what you've done. I have a movie review podcast, you assholes.
I have...
Oh, look at me now.
Somewhere in storage, here, I don't know where, a VHS cassette that I never returned to Blockbuster. Never. It is
waiting for those funds.
Just to give you an idea of what the last rental I ever rented from a Blockbuster video store was. It was before my daughter was born. Okay, so this is like 1998. And I rented a copy of Purple Rain.
Oh, wow.
Right. Hey, one of the few things that I loved about Prince was the fact that not only was he a great singer, but he actually had a couple of pretty passable movies for a musician, which is not easy to do. And Purple Rain was one of my favorite movies of his.
In my possession, in my hands, at this very moment,
okay,
I have 2 DVDs that I never sent back to Netflix.
Oh, that was easy to do too, wasn't it?
Well, they did say you had a limited amount of time to watch them.
Right.
So
you definitely took that unlimited to the max, didn't you?
Yes. One of them is season 1 of oh god, what's that show? The
Firefly?
Chicago Fire.
Oh, Chicago Fire. Okay.
Yeah. And I think the other one is Big Love. I can't remember, but I kind of feel like that's what it was.
Netflix still has their rental service, don't they?
Here it is. Oh, yep, Big Love, season 1. Just 1.
They do have... Netflix still does have a DVD service.
Yeah, and I keep wanting to return these and, leave a note. Be like, I'm so sorry.
I am legitimately surprised that they haven't been like, look, you have a Netflix account over here and you have a DVD, or you had a DVD account over here. Why didn't you return this?
Well, so I still have the envelope and the wrapper, and I have it ready to go. I just have never sent it to the place. And I have gone to the post office many times. I've just never taken it with me.
I can't remember them ever hunting me down for a movie that I didn't return. I'm sure there was a couple that I didn't return.
I'm going to send it to you right now so you can add it to the show or whatever.
I got to find that old VHS cassette so that we can just take pictures and put them side by side. Things never returned.
Yep.
Do you have any favorite video store memories?
So I touched on this on the episode I did with the other gentleman about movie rentals and all that stuff. But one of the first movie rental stores I remember going to, I don't remember what store it was. It wasn't Blockbuster, but it was for E.T. when the movie came out on VHS.
Wow.
And they were having like a big thing. And we got a Pepsi Frisbee because I guess they were a sponsor of the movie. And we got all this like merch just for going and getting this movie. It was like a big deal. And I just remember that for whatever reason.
My favorite video store memory is actually literally a week back.
Uh-huh.
And it's only because it has to do with an old memory that I let my son in on. And he gave me this look as if I were the most ancient, dusty thing sitting in this room. So I told him, I worked at this place. It was Island Video. It was maybe like 3 or 4 towns away from where I am. And I worked for one of their stores, and my wife worked for the other store.
Aww.
But we were working for their stores the day that they first implemented DVD rentals in video stores.
Oh, wow.
So they had the old machines, the old big clunky DVD machines, and it was a whole argument that he was having that, like, he never got to, I guess, take full advantage of the laser discs that he had originally set up his store for. And then they were moving into DVD rentals. I don't know how long after laser discs they moved into DVDs. Mm-hmm. But he had, like, crates of laser discs in his back room that he never got to the floor. And they moved on to DVDs, and I think the first DVD rental from that store that I ever got was it was an old copy of A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, wow.
I also learned that there were certain VHS cassettes that never got a popular release. And so he had a whole stack of like VHS cassettes that he had planned to sell before the store closed because the VHS cassettes themselves never got like a popular DVD release or VHS release. Mm-hmm. And he said one of the most valuable VHS cassettes that he had, or 2 of them actually, was Hackers. Because at the time, they had never made Hackers available to the general public for VHS, so you could only get it through video stores. So he wouldn't sell the used copies, he kept them back.
Uh-huh.
And the other one was an old Angelina Jolie movie called Firefox. Or Was it Firefox or Foxfire? Now I'm trying to remember. I might be getting the name mixed up. I think it's Foxfire, actually. But it was like an old movie of hers that like they put on the shelves for a very short period of time. It didn't really rent, so they ended up in the back room with a bunch of other boxes of stuff. And as they were closing the store, he just decided he didn't even want to bother to try to sell them, so he just started giving us the boxes. Like, take home whatever you want. So I had a pretty decent VHS collection for a while.
Do you remember what your first VHS or DVD you got?
Oh, the first VHS cassette that I ever got? Like, me personally purchasing, or like just in my life in general?
In general.
In my life in general, the first VHS cassette I probably ever personally owned, like as a part of my family, I think was Benji.
Oh, wow.
It's an old copy of Benji. My mother really liked, we had like Benji and the Love Bug, Herbie. Stuff like that, like the old
Yeah.
school, like, you know, the stuff from like the 70s. We had those like big clunky cassette cases and everything. Like before they slimmed them down to like the regular boxes, they did come in like these big boxes that had like styrofoam or other cardboard packaging inside, and the things were like book sized, like hardcover book sized.
So that leads me to mine. So my very first VHS tape that I know that I owned, it was bigger than like the regular that are just in that sleeve. Mine was Cinderella.
Oh.
And it was in that big plastic case. And I didn't realize that I should stop opening it once I had the first plastic off of there. So I kept ripping it open. And so we have one blank VHS like plastic case.
Because you ripped all that plastic off the front that kept the picture in.
Yeah.
I think I did that once or twice, I'll be honest, as a kid. It's tempting.
I think my very first DVD that I got was either Bring It On or Save the Last Dance. I don't remember which one, but they were right around the same time.
I didn't buy DVDs to start off with. I had VHS cassettes long into the DVD era, because they were still selling VHS cassettes for a while.
I was still buying those at Blockbuster. Like, I shit you not, most of my money I made from my job at the theater went to Blockbuster.
The first DVDs that I bought were the first 3 seasons of The X-Files. Those were the first DVDs that we got. So that was fun. I was fairly obsessed with The X-Files for a while. But those were definitely the first DVDs I had. I didn't have anything like standard, like a single disc. I think maybe the first single disc that I picked up was this really... it was an obscure exploitation film, because I thought it was cute. It wasn't a cute movie. It was definitely not something that I should have gifted to my wife. It was an exploitation film, so there was a lot of TNA in the movie. And it was a movie, just this kind of obscure movie. It came in a cute little case. I didn't know what it was. I didn't think about it. I purchased it because my wife's name was on the front. Her name, we call her Candy. And that was the name of the movie, Candy. So I bought it and I brought it to her, and we sat down and we popped it in, and then we immediately realized the kids shouldn't have been in the room. And yeah, I mean, I could have read the back of the packaging. I didn't think. I just said, "Oh, we got this movie. Oh, well, let's sit down and we'll watch it." And my kid was too young to really understand what was on the TV. You know, barely like a maybe 2 years old. So that was good, I guess. You know, but still not an appropriate movie for children to be in the room at all. Look up the film after we're done here. You'll see what I mean.
Okay. Has anything ever weird happened to you at a theater, or like a funny thing? Because I have something.
I think the funniest thing, and it was just something I did, because I got bored watching a movie. I've been to a couple of movies where myself and whoever came with me, we were legitimately the only ones in the theater. Okay, and this is not like modernized theaters like what we're doing right now, but back in the day, and I can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head, but it was an old Winona Ryder movie. I think it was Girls or something to that nature.
Was it Mermaids?
No.
Was Cher? Oh.
It was definitely like a teen angst kind of dramedy. That's all. No.
Oh.
No. Now I'm gonna have to look it up. But the point that I was trying to make with it, though, is that there was literally nobody in the movie theater at the time. So we were just fucking around in the theater, and so I'm sitting here, we're doing cartwheels in the aisles and just kind of running around and acting like idiots, throwing popcorn at each other. We were probably deeply hated by whoever had to clean up after us, because we were just acting, because the movie was boys, it wasn't girls, it was a movie called Boys.
Okay.
It was Winona Ryder, Lucas Haas was in it, John C. Reilly, Skeet Ulrich, It was a pretty, all-star cast, but of people that at the time probably wouldn't have been considered all-stars. Like, Lucas Haas went on to do some decent stuff, and everybody knows who the hell Skeet Ulrich is now.
Yeah.
But at that point, he was not that popular. I think this was just pre-Scream for him. So, there was just nobody in the theater. It wasn't a popular film. This was during the downturn of Winona Ryder's popularity as an actress. Like that first dip that she took before she came back up and became a household name again. So, yeah, that was my funny thing, I guess. Just me being an idiot.
Well, first of all, as a former theater employee, yes, we would have been so pissed.
I mean, if they asked me to, I would have vacuumed up or swept up after myself. If they had given me the equipment, I would have done it gladly because I know I made a mess.
Someone, it is amazing what people leave behind at a theater. It is incredibly amazing. Like shoes, keys, purses, wallets.
Some of those are pretty easy to do because
all sorts of stuff.
You're sitting, and if it's the old school seats, you're sitting in a theater, and like if your keys fall out or your wallet falls out onto that floor underneath, if you have carpeting there, you don't hear it hit.
Yeah.
So you're watching a movie where the sounds are a lot louder than your shit hitting the floor. It's easy to leave it behind.
Luckily, we had concrete floors, but
still,
we would take a leaf blower and we would blow the popcorn all the way to the front and just scoop it up that way.
Oh, that sounds horrible, though.
It was okay. It was one room, but it was a huge room because it was just one room.
I mean, enough that you need to use a leaf blower, though.
Yeah, well, if you have a Saturday, 3 movies on Saturday, and they're kids' movies.
And you've only got 2 to 3 people working, I'm guessing that you have to move fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the funniest thing that happened to me in a movie, me and my mom went to go see Sister Act, the first one. And we're sitting there, and in front of us, or behind us walks these 3 women, and they go and sit down, and they were all nuns. And we were like, are they really nuns? Or are they just dressed up as nuns? But I actually think they were nuns.
Nuns going to a movie? What movie?
Yeah, to see Sister Act.
Oh, good Lord. I mean, I would hope that they were cosplaying, but that would be really funny if it was nuns going to see Sister Act.
Yeah, it was just so... We're like, are they nuns?
I mean, you would think that they might find it kind of sacrilegious, but...
Yeah! Maybe they were just super cool nuns, like the ones in the movie, I guess.
We're doing a little bit of research for the Catholic Church to see if this is okay. They've all sent us out. There's nuns in every theater. Are there nuns elsewhere watching the same movie? That's what I would have thought.
Right.
You know? Have you ever had that thought where you're leaving your house to go get milk or something, and you're like, how many other people are leaving their houses to get milk right now?
I thought, how many other people are listening to this song at this stoplight right now?
Right? You occasionally see somebody like drive by, and you can tell that they're listening to the same thing you are.
Yeah.
Because they're moving to the same beat or lip syncing the same song.
They're like, hey!
Have you ever physically walked out of a movie?
Yes.
Okay, what film?
So, Bedazzled.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. So we did the movie Bedazzled because I walked out of it, and I don't think April liked it either. I can't remember. But me and my friend went to that very same theater I worked at, and I was off that day. And her and I went to go watch this movie, and we didn't even pay. And I was like, I want my money back. This was horrible.
I have a fun story for Bedazzled now that you brought it up.
Okay.
Honestly, if you ask my daughter, Bedazzled was one of her favorite movies growing up. We watched it a lot. Okay? Now, when she was growing up, we watched this film a few times. She loved Brandon Fraser. There was especially a portion where they had an omitted scene, like a life that he didn't get to lead, that they kind of kept as a deleted scene that she loved, that we had to play a few times, because he basically played this drugged up kind of hairband metal guitar singer. And it was him singing, too. So if you ever get to pick up the DVD, just to see him sing, it's worth it. However, one day, like I said, she watches this movie a lot. One day, we're sitting on the bus, and we're coming home with a bunch of groceries, and my little girl is sitting right next to me. And we had just watched the film earlier on in the day. And one of her favorite characters in the film is Elizabeth Hurley, basically playing the devil.
Yeah.
And this woman is having a conversation with my daughter directly next to me. And I'm not really paying attention to the conversation up until the point that my daughter says something to this woman, because my kid's not talking. She just listened to this woman talk at her.
Uh-huh.
She looked this woman dead in the face and says, "I love the devil." To which the woman wordlessly just got up, tapped the button, bus stop, she's out of there. She was having a very happy conversation with my daughter. And this is an older woman. And just got taken right out of her skin by my daughter looking directly at her and saying, "I love the devil."
I like the devil.
So that was one of her two favorite movies growing up. The other movie that she absolutely loved is we had a DVD copy of, several actually, DVD copies of Castaway because she wore them out.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
And DVDs, not like Blu-rays, those were very, very scratchable, especially when you have a little munchkin loading the DVD player.
Yep.
She would get up in the morning and there was a basket of apples, and she wouldn't wake us up. She would get up and she would take her favorite DVD and she knew how to put it in the player. And she would sit with an apple and just watch Castaway. That's her breakfast in the morning. Tom Hanks, Wilson, and an apple.
Hey, whatever works for you.
Hey, I didn't grow up listening. My son was the one that wanted to watch all the little weird kids shows like The Wiggles and Barney and all that stuff. Loved those things. Even the Teletubbies. Ooh. Uh-huh. My daughter just loved obscure movies. She didn't want to watch those things. She wanted to watch Castaway. She wanted to watch, I think she had a movie, an old Robin Williams flick. Robin Williams, Edward Norton, Death to Smoochie. Which was technically about a Barney-like character, but not kid-friendly. And we were first-round parents, and we didn't think, hey, maybe this is not the best thing for my kid to be sitting down and watching. Because it was a rated-R film. You know, it was a rated R film about the world of children's TV show hosts.
Well, Dirty Dancing was my favorite movie at 5, so.
Okay, so definitely not a kid-friendly movie either.
No. And I wore out my VHS tape of Dirty Dancing.
Who didn't love Dirty Dancing, though?
It's so good.
I mean, even I loved Dirty Dancing. I wanted to be Patrick Swayze.
I wanted to marry Patrick Swayze, and I've never cried when a celebrity died, but I was a little emotional when he passed.
My stepfather introduced me to Roadhouse. So I went from Patrick Swayze Dirty Dancing to Roadhouse Patrick Swayze.
Hey, both great Patrick Swayzes.
So, like, my male role model in film was Patrick Swayze. Point Break, Roadhouse. And then To Wong Fu, I was a little confused.
Hey, still a good
great movie. But Patrick Swayze in drag threw me.
I told April we should watch Tu Wong Fu, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Tu Wong Fu." She's like, "I don't know it." I said,
Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Fu. I was like, "How have you never heard of this?"
She's never heard of that movie?
No.
Oh, you have to sit down with her and watch that then.
Oh,
you definitely do.
I was like, Connie and Carla. It's like Connie and Carla. And she was like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh my god."
That's a fantastic movie. I mean, for all three of them, one of the best performances by Wesley Snipes and John Leguizamo, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
That showed like range that both of them had, and I haven't seen that kind of range in Wesley Snipes since.
No, it's such a good movie.
You could tell like a little bit of his character in Demolition Man kind of felt like some of his Tu Wong Fu stuff. It did. He was definitely a bad guy, but with sort of an effeminate edge to it.
But if you like John Leguizamo in Romeo and Juliet, then you should love him in Tu Wong Fu.
I like John Leguizamo to begin with, just all over.
That's true.
The only film that really pressed...
He really has razzle-dazzle.
The only film that's ever pressed my interest in watching a John Leguizamo movie was The Pest.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen The Pest? It does not hold up.
I've heard of it.
It's a movie that postulates... It was very a good movie for him, personally, because he has a lot of range, and it sort of showed his range of all these different characters that he could do. However, the other end is that it was definitely a product of the 90s where you could do movies that took a lot of pot shots at literally every nationality and ethnicity that you could think of. So it was definitely not something that he would get canceled for that movie right now.
Aww.
Like, he had to go back and apologize for that movie just because there was a lot of racial insensitivities. Like, the main guy in the film, the main bad guy, is literally a man who hunts people, I want to say poor people of ethnicity. And he had heads on his wall of people that he hunted. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like I said, definitely not, while it was a comedy, definitely not something that would hold up right now. At all. Like I said, love John Leguizamo, but everybody has that one movie in their past, especially if you did work in the 80s and 90s, that you might have to go back and apologize for. It was a thing of the time. Don't cancel me for that.
I say don't apologize. Just don't do it again.
Unfortunately, there are too many people that are willing to press the cancellation button on folks for things that they've done in their past that are nowhere near acceptable now, but might have slid under the radar back then. And people are more than willing to call them out for things that they definitely shouldn't. It's like, are they that person right now? Have they changed? Are they doing the same kinds of things? Did they realize that while they were doing this back then, it's not necessarily PC right now? People change. Oh, we're going to end this on a heavy note, aren't we? We got to find something more lighthearted to talk about to end this first segment. Because that was heavy.
So I went and saw Drumline the day it came out.
Okay.
And we're like, I don't know, a third of the way into the movie, and a fire alarm started going off. And so we all had to leave, and we came back, and the movie literally had 15 minutes left. But they gave us all a free coupon to see the movie again. And so I went back and saw the same movie and really only missed a couple minutes and sat through the whole movie a second time.
I don't think I've ever had anything like that happen.
Oh, really?
No fires in the movies that I've been in. I did have one theater that they gave me an extra ticket to go see a film again. We went out to I think it was the original showing of Independence Day.
Uh-huh.
And the theater that we went to, it was one that we didn't normally go to. It was up in Salem, New Hampshire. And we went in to go watch the film, and we sat down, and partway through the movie, my date gets up, walks out to go use the restroom or whatever, but when she came back, somebody had spilled a drink behind us and we didn't know, and she slipped and fell into the mess on the floors. So she was just covered in whatever was on the floor there, along with this kid's drink that he had toppled over behind us, that was slowly running down the slope of the theater to the front. And they ended up giving us tickets to whatever I think we went back to see. What did we see afterwards? I actually don't remember what we saw. We got free tickets. I know we went back to see him at some point when she was feeling comfortable about going back to the theaters, but she took a spill. Not exactly a lighthearted note to end things on, but yeah, that was probably the only time I ever got free tickets. Well, somebody takes a spill in your theater, they kiss a little ass to make sure that you don't sue them, I guess. I don't think we were thinking about suing at the time. We were young.
That's true.
We were just she was just thinking about the fact that her outfit that she was wearing was ruined, and she definitely had popcorn and I don't know what kind of candy stuck to her head, but she was really upset. Really upset. And the manager was just like, oh my God. And they ended up giving us, not tickets, but it was gift certificates to come back. I mean, they can't just... This wasn't back where you pre-purchased tickets. You came to the theater to go watch your movie. You picked up your tickets there. You didn't pre-purchase tickets.
Yeah.
So they gave you gift certificates to come back. It's like, okay, well, we're sorry for that and blah, blah, blah. And they definitely put up some, like, slippery when wet signs and kind of marked the areas where... they had ushers, I guess, go in and mark the areas where there were spills as we were leaving. But we left. We watched, maybe... We didn't walk out of the theater that time because we liked the movie. It was just the spill. You know, you're not going to want to sit down and watch the rest of the movie with candy and Coke seeping into your back.
True.
No, not at all. That's uncomfortable.
I do have one more story.
Okay.
Have you ever, had a favorite restaurant, bar, coffee house, whatever, that you've been to, and then they changed it and they became, more bougie? Because that happened here.
I mean, there are a couple of places around here that have done things like that where they were sort of family-friendly, then all of a sudden... without really any warning either. They went, really upscale. A week worth of renovations, and all of a sudden I can't afford to eat there anymore.
Yeah. Well, so when I first moved here to Texas, there was a few places to watch movies. But one of them was called the Movie Tavern. And basically what it was the old school theater seats, right? Okay. And then they had taken out the row in front of you. So you have a row of seats. And then you have a piece of wood, like a low table, that if you're sitting in the chair, you could put your feet on, and it was just perfect. And then they would have another row, and then a table. And so basically, they would give you the sticks, and it would have a light up number or light up paper, so in the dark they could see what number you have, and they could bring you your food.
Okay.
And it was so cool. So if you wanted something, you would just put your number up and they would come to you while the movie's going on. You don't have to leave. Loved it. These people wore jeans. It was very casual, very laid back. I loved going there. Well, a few years down the line, I guess it was getting more and more popular. And they went to fancy seats, and they had a button or the little... those things at restaurants, the pager things, they have that. So they would light up when you wanted something. You could, light it up and the person could see you. And they were wearing, black pants and, cummerbunds and white button-down shirts and bow ties. And then the food was all bougie. Ugh, they ruined it. They absolutely ruined it.
I'll talk to you about something just to end this segment today. Something similar, but it wasn't ruined by upscaling. It was ruined by the fact that they closed the place down. So one of my favorite restaurants / theaters here is called Chunky's Theaters, and they still have one or two. Chunky's, they had a mouse mascot. It was kind of I guess they were trying to emulate sort of a Chuck E. Cheese vibe to start with.
Yeah.
But it was more of a theater where you could sit down with your family and have a meal and watch a movie.
Okay.
So this theater, basically, they ripped out all the seats. It was a movie theater to begin with, but when they took it over, they ripped out all the seats and they put in tables. And the chairs were literally old chairs or old seats from old Cadillacs.
Oh, cool.
So there were these heavy-duty Cadillac seats that, were on a swivel so you could kind of turn them around. And it was an absolutely fantastic restaurant to go and watch a movie in. I saw a couple of films there, including, Dumb and Dumber. But, that being said, all good things come to an end. Yeah. And I want to say just before COVID came around, maybe a year before COVID hit, they sold that property. And 6 months before COVID became a thing, Planet Fitness opened up over there. Mm. So my favorite movie theater disappeared from this area and is now a Planet Fitness. So we went from Chunky's to Fitness. Which, I mean, is kind of a little poetic, if you think about it. But... I miss the theater experience, because they didn't just do movies there. They had Super Bowl parties there. They had wrestling events there. They had big movie premieres there. They had a lot of fun stuff that happened in those theaters. They even had, like, stand-up comedy nights.
Oh, that's so cool.
So it was one of those things, like I was saying, like one of those big things that I personally miss when you go deal with rentals, when you deal with the old school theaters, is you had a sense of community when you went into these theaters. You felt like you were going with this other group of people and you were all there together enjoying this one film. And now that the way that theaters are set up and the fact that almost every rental store has disappeared from the face of the planet. Yeah. You know, there are a couple of mom and pop stores here and there if you really, really search that are still doing rentals. But Redbox pretty much killed all of those.
Yeah.
And Redbox costs just as much now as a regular rental did at those places. Mm-hmm. You know? And there's just nobody giving you anything there. It's not cheap anymore to get a Redbox movie.
Yeah, it used to be. Not anymore.
They didn't need to keep cheap. They didn't need to put the competition to rest. Once that was gone, they could raise their prices with no problem, because who are you going to go to rent a movie? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go to the empty building over there that used to rent me movies.
Actually, streaming. Because you're already paying for it, so it's free.
Right. I am heavy into watching films. My wife is heavy into watching television, so we probably have 5 to 6 different streaming services.
Right.
But, much like my books, I still prefer the physical medium. I prefer to have a DVD in my hand. I prefer to have a book with pages in my hand.
Yeah, because sometimes it'll just disappear.
Well, it's not just that.
I was going to watch that.
I can go watch Dumb and Dumber on any one of the streaming services. I can pick it up on, right? But you go out and pick up the DVD, and 90% of the time you're getting extras you're not getting with the streaming experience.
Yeah.
You're getting director's commentary, actor's commentary, you're getting behind-the-scenes specials, you're getting deleted scenes, you're getting all sorts of things that you're not afforded via watching it on Netflix. Because Netflix just wants to give you the movie. They don't want to give you all the little extras. Technically, on Vudu, you can get most of the extras. So if you purchase the movie itself through Vudu, which is now, I think, owned by Fandango, a lot of the movies come with all the extras that you would normally get on the DVDs. So that's... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, are you on TikTok?
Am I on TikTok?
Yeah.
Yes and no.
You should look for the creators that buy DVDs. You should have them on, because there's a few of them. I'll find the ones that I'm following and send them to you, because I think you guys would have a lot in common.
I have particular places that I like to go. And if you like weird movies or obscure movies, or even movies that don't get a lot of... Because we love Cinematic Anarchy. We love the obscure shit. We go to Arrow Entertainment is a good place. Vinegar Syndrome is a good place. There's a place called 88 Films. There's Severin Entertainment. There's a lot of websites that I go to pick up these collector's editions. We were just listening to the Doom Generation podcast. I'm going to give them a little shout out because I was talking to them earlier on today. And I listened to her podcast, and I realized that they're just putting out a 4K collector's edition of Showgirls. So I went and picked that up. Because that was a really terrible movie and a terrible choice for Jesse Spano and Elizabeth Banks to do right out of Saved by the Bell. And that is why I love that film. Because it was by far the worst career decision she could have ever made, and I love it. Yes.
I was listening to her on Hey Dude, the 90s Called podcast, and they talked all about how that ruined her career, or supposedly ruined it. And all the stuff she went through to get that part.
You know, so the thing really is that a lot of actresses have that issue where they are strapped into a role. Like Jessica Biel had the issue. Miley Cyrus has had her issues with it. There's a lot of actresses that start out in these pristine kind of saccharinely sweet roles.
Yeah.
And they feel that they have to go hard the other direction to be able to break out of the mold of what they were doing.
Well, she basically said they threw her under the bus and like they didn't take care of her at all. And it was a really fun, entertaining episode to listen to.
Okay, you're going to have to send me a link to that. I'd definitely like to hear that. Because, I mean, I would like to hear what her thoughts were on why her career went that way. Because I think she's a fantastic actress. It's just that because of that movie, it kind of tanked her career.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if that was, like, fully 100% her own bad decision-making or if there were some other things at play there. Because she's had a couple of other roles that I've absolutely loved. But because of that movie, it just looms over her like a dark cloud. All right, well, I thank you. We're going to go ahead to our break here. And the second half of the podcast, we're going to be having our friend Piper back to basically continue the same discussion we're having here. And if you wouldn't mind, could you tell our listeners where they can find your podcast?
Yes, they can find us at Two Chicks Talkin Flicks on all platforms.
Literally, that's where you find them. All platforms. That makes it easy. Yeah. It really does. There's a couple of platforms personally for us where we have to change the name a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Cinematic Anarchy was already taken on Twitter.
Oh, really? Twitter, we couldn't use our full name. It was too long. But we don't tweet, so it's okay. So don't go to Twitter for us.
No, I haven't been doing a lot of tweeting lately since Elon bought the site.
Yeah, I feel like we started that trend like 3 years ago. We both equally were not tweeters, and so we're like, don't tweet us. But this is our Twitter.
No, I mean, contact me through Facebook or Instagram. That's my main thing right there.
Me too.
Twitter and Instagram I'm even having a little problem with now, because now you can buy a check on Instagram. You don't have to be verified the normal way. You know, you can buy your check now. So,
lame.
Yeah, bad form, because that means on Facebook you're going to be able to do the same thing because they're the same company now.
Ew.
So, you don't need to be famous. You just need to have an open wallet.
This is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks, where we review movies. We try to dig deeper and go more in depth.
And profound for me.
Yeah, for me, I'm just like, what? We even bring up relevant topics.
I remember from Punky Brewster that you don't go inside the fridge.
And we're here to have those tough conversations.
Mm-hmm. And she was wearing a white dress, which
was yellow. It was yellow. So if this sounds like the podcast for you, please enjoy. New episodes every Tuesday.
All right, thank you for sticking with us through to the second half of our podcast. And on the other end of the podcast here, we have a long-staying, guest on our podcast. She's been here several times, and you'll probably hear her many times this season, Miss Piper.
Hi.
Hello. And we're still waiting. We're in a holding pattern to talk about her most recent project. I'm waiting. Once I get that link and I'm able to watch it, then we can actually talk about it.
Oh, God, I watched it.
Yeah?
I was able to watch it.
I've heard never to watch yourself. Never. Because you always are going to be your worst critic.
Oh, I was, and I was drunk when I watched it. And I was still harsh on myself.
How do you think I feel when I edit this podcast? Because I'm going to listen to myself and the clicks and the lisps. I have a lisp. And it bugs the hell out of you. You can't hear that lisp?
No.
No, I hear it all the time.
I do find it funny that, the speech impediments they give to people, like lisp or a stutter, would make the people who have those impediments while trying to say what they have.
Right. A lisp. Yeah. No,
It's not as bad as Cindy Brady. Or Stephanie Tanner when she was younger.
She had it for a while. So, we are going to continue our conversation. The second half, we're going to continue our conversation about our experiences, or our early experiences with theater, rental stores, and in my case, seeing as I talked a blue streak about those two things, and I have a couple of little things I can touch on, we're also going to touch on big box stores that used to basically specialize in media. Your Sam Goodies, and you had, let's see, Not just Sam Goody's, Tower Records. There was a couple of them. Suncoast Video was a good one, too.
I don't think we had any of those.
No?
Not where. Well, you got to look at the, like, you're a little bit older. I think you said you might have a decade on me. But
Possibly.
You got to look at the...
46?
Yeah, I'll be 36 in October.
Yeah, so I got a decade on you.
So you got to look at the time when you were going to places to rent stuff and the time that I was going to rent stuff because I was a child when things like that were around.
I had a good 10 years in the 80s and 90s where I could experience these things and you were probably still crawling around in diapers, you know.
I stopped crawling around in diapers in probably around 1990.
I'm not insinuating that you were in diapers for 10 years. I'm not insinuating that at all.
I can't remember if I was or not. That was a long time ago.
Oh, God, I can't remember back when I was 10. I remember very little. Like, I have phantom memories, like people told me things that I did when I was a kid, and they're not direct memories, but I can picture myself as a little shit doing things. You know? Like, horrible things my mother told me. Like, I think, like, I used to throw a massive temper fit because my mother would take us out to local restaurants, and because she was the one that had the responsibility of taking me to the bathroom, she always took me into the women's room. And the one time that my father took me into the men's room, what the fuck do you think I did?
Bitch like a little baby?
No, I didn't bitch like a little baby. I did the one thing that you should never do as a child for the first time in a men's room. I took a shit in the urinal. Yep.
Oh my God.
My father led me in. He did not take me in. He did not want to deal with that. He knew that I could go to the bathroom on my own. I had never seen a urinal a day in my life. Never. Because my mother's always taken me into the women's room. And my father comes in, and here I am, sitting on the edge of the urinal, tank full of shit, and I'm like, I don't know how to get rid of this. Where's the toilet paper? I'm complaining to him, and he flipped out.
Like mad, or was he dying?
Oh, I think he was half and half. He was stunned. There was a bit of laughter there. There was definitely some anger there, and he brings me to the stall across the way because the urinals were directly across from the stalls, you know. And I'm thinking, oh, this is a fun thing. I can, like, hop up on it and sit on it, and then I flushed it, and the water hit my ass. You know, it was fun. But I didn't know.
You basically had a self-serve bidet there.
It was a bidet, but it hit you from the top to the back, not from the underside, you know.
You trying to take a shower.
I'm glad that I didn't.
Imagining you as a little kid try to keep your balance on it.
Oh, I was just holding on to the sides. I think my mother actually had a picture for a while. I want to ask why she had a camera, but I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Moving back into not me sitting on a toilet or a urinal and shitting. So, yeah. We will start. I'm going to start with you because you have a few things I've already discussed. And we'll just start with, what is your earliest remembrance of going to the theater? Going to a movie theater?
Like an actual movie theater?
Yes. First movie that you can remember going to a movie theater to see.
Oh, God. The first one that comes up would be Muppet Treasure Island. That's the first one I remember off the top of my... No, there's an earlier memory. I remember my mom took me and my half-sister to go see Snow White when it came back out to theaters. Because Snow White was my half-sister's favorite movie.
Okay. Do you remember anything specific about it, or was it just...
No, it's the only time that my mom actually had my half-sister for any amount of time. Because her and my dad had divorced by this point.
Oh,
and
okay.
My half-sister was not my mother's. She was my dad's.
I remember seeing a lot of movies in the theaters. I don't think I remember seeing a lot of animated films in the theaters when I was younger.
It's like my mom took me to see a lot of animated ones. Only because she didn't like horror movies, so she stuck to kids' movies and romance stuff.
You know what animated film I did see when I was younger?
What?
The Brave Little Toaster.
I have never seen that.
Oh my God.
I never want. The funny thing is, we owned it. Like, my dad owned it. Because of my stepmom's kids and stuff, or grandkids, but I never wanted to watch it.
Never? Honestly,
Never.
One of the better non-Disney movies to come out of that era.
I could make an argument.
You can make an argument?
Anastasia.
You can't... That wasn't a non-Disney movie.
Yes, it was.
I thought that was a Disney film.
It was a Fox movie.
I thought that was a Disney film.
Nope. It did not become a Disney film until recently when Disney acquired Fox. Anastasia is now a Disney princess or duchess or whatever the fuck she is, but
why did I remember it being released in those white Disney boxes way back when?
Because it did have a white box, but it was not Disney. The thing is like Disney had those white soft spongy boxes kind of thing, like still kind of firm. This one came out in a white plastic box.
Okay. See, my whole thought
But it was
process,
released like that because of it being Anastasia.
See, I don't remember Anastasia being a Fox product. I don't know why I've been under the mistaken impression that has always been a Disney product.
Nope.
And I am wrong. Well, I still argue that you haven't seen it yet, so you can't argue that the Brave Little Toaster is or is not better than Anastasia.
Well, hell, I didn't like WALL-E until about 3 months ago when I finally sat down and watched it.
You didn't like WALL-E until you watched it?
I just thought WALL-E was going to be stupid, and then I watched it. It was fucking adorable.
So there you go. There's your argument for going to watch The Brave Little Toaster. You don't know if it's bad or good. You have to watch it first. And now you're looking around like...
Because I thought I heard something, but that might have been on your end.
That was on my end. So I explained this to Sarah, and I have this issue where I have no soundproofing in my place at all.
You talked about it before.
So we have the drag strip going on behind the house on a continual basis, and I cannot wait for the day that I move out of here and have a nice little room that I can soundproof from wall to wall. That's all I want, is a room that nobody can hear me inside of it, and I cannot hear anybody outside of it. Until then,
that people never visit him if he gets this place, if he wants to murder somebody.
The problem is it's nice weather out,
kidding.
so people, that's why there's a drain in the floor. You know, you get into my recording place, you see a drain in the floor, you don't want to stay for very long. You know,
you see that drain, you run. Don't let the door shut behind you. Get out before it does.
Okay, so I'm seeing carpeting, and I'm seeing all the movie stuff, and I'm seeing your recording setup. The thing that worries me is the drain in the floor and the hook on the ceiling. That worries me.
Comes up with a lie. I like to do my own beef.
Right. I make my own beef jerky. I just hang it from there. It smells a little, but...
And I'm into making horror sounds, so I had the recording stuff set up in here so I can catch all the sounds.
I had them soundproof the room because the cows don't like it.
Oh my god. When we go into rental places, I'll circle back to that.
Rental places. Okay. We can move on to rental places. Well, we don't need to go to rental places quite yet. Okay. What is by far the worst film that you saw in a theater? Like you spent physical money to watch a film that you regretted every cent that you spent.
That I've done in my whole lifetime?
That you've seen, any of all the theater movies you've seen in the theaters, what's the worst one you've seen in the theater?
Oh, God.
I can tell you what mine is. And most people are going to disagree with me when I say this.
Does it have to be money I spent, or can it be a movie I was taken to?
It has to come out of your pocket. So it's money that you spent. You regret spending going to the theater.
There's not a single movie that I've gone to see that I've regretted that I paid for.
Really?
Really?
Nothing? Nothing at all?
Nothing.
Oh, I guess then we have to move on to the other thing, don't we? See, you should have just said that. You should have qualified that. What's the worst money somebody else spent for a movie that I went to see? You could have just qualified that. Could have said, because the other way around, I have nothing for you.
Well, if I go the other way around, it would have to be The Lord of the Rings. I was taken to it, and I fell asleep in the first 10 minutes.
You didn't like The Lord of the Rings?
No, and I actually tried to rewatch it, and no, I started falling asleep again.
I liked The Lord of the Rings, all three of those films.
I did like The Hobbit.
Oh my god. Oh my god. All right, so I liked The Lord of the Rings. I did not like The Hobbit.
But I only saw one of those Hobbit movies.
Well, then that's why you liked The Hobbit, because you saw one. That's it. You didn't see all three. I only saw the
first one. So. No.
I liked the Lord of the Rings movies, and I liked their extended editions, which I picked up on DVD when they were available.
I do have one for the other side.
Sure. Okay, what was it?
In the last of the Star Wars trilogy, the second one.
The second one?
Mm-hmm. It's not the one where Han Solo gets flambéed by a lightsaber. It's the one where we have Luke.
So it's
Luke
the
is
new
training,
trilogy.
and then it had Luke training, and then like you see Luke in the end, like as a ghost.
Oh, that's the last. Is that the third one?
No, this is the second one. I haven't seen the third one.
Okay.
But I remember why I didn't like it, and it wasn't because of the story or anything like that. It's because, you know, when you watch all these things, you don't sit there and fall in love with like the little animals and like get all worried about if the animals are going to make it out of something. For me, that was just completely Disney-fied. Which I love Disney. I love Star Wars. It's like I didn't like my worlds meshing.
Well, too late now, unfortunately.
Well, I know that, but still, they could have gone with a complete Star Wars thing without having to Disney-fy it.
You know they weren't going to do that, though.
I could hope.
You can hope. It's the last hope, but you can hope.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. I had the one that I regretted spending my money on the most was one of the few films that I've walked out on. To this day, a lot of people love the film. I still can't stand it. Tommy Boy.
Never seen it.
Never seen it. Okay. So I couldn't. I don't know why. I was sitting down with a date at the time. This girl, Tammy, I think her name was. And I could not bring myself to sit through the entire film. I think at that point I wasn't really into lowest common denominator slapstick comedies. I really couldn't. I just couldn't. I liked movies that had some kind of substance, and I didn't feel Tommy Boy. I was being a movie snob at the time, is what I was doing. And I forked over my hard-earned money, and I said, there are so many things that I could be doing right now that are a hell of a lot better than this, so let's leave. What do you say? And reluctantly, my date got up and left with me. So I think she was enjoying the movie, which was even more dismaying for me. Oh, you liked that? Oh, jeez. And I made you leave. So that's bad on me, but I also know that if I had stuck around, I would have been passed out on your shoulder and still pissed off that I forked out the $30 for it. You know?
Have you watched it since?
I have.
Do you like it more now?
I wouldn't say I like it. I've watched it. I don't regret watching it all the way through, but it's not something that I would consider one of my favorite films. I
think that.
It might just be me. Outside of maybe Beverly Hills Ninja, I haven't really been into Chris Farley's version of comedy. He had like a thing. My gosh. He had a thing in Happy Gilmore that I thought was pretty funny. His role as the bus driver. I loved him in
Billy Madison.
Billy Madison?
That was in Billy Madison.
It was Billy Madison. Billy Madison, not Happy Gilmore. My apologies.
Yeah. You know, I loved him in Billy Madison. No yelling on the bus.
He did the whole thing where he takes off his shirt and he's just like bites his finger.
That is correct.
It's like not exactly the same as Brigitte Nielsen, but okay. You know,
that wasn't Brigitte Nielsen. That was Bridget Wilson.
Bridget Nielsen.
Yeah, Bridget Wilson Sampras.
Fuck.
Brigitte Nielsen is Red Sonja.
Okay. Hey,
Bridget Wilson is Sonya Blade.
Look, I spent an entire podcast mixing up Will Smith with Will Ferrell. Tell me how.
How?
It was just the last name. Because I kept calling him Will Smith and we were talking about Will Ferrell for some reason. I don't know why.
Apologies to Will Smith.
Well, apologies to the copious amount of alcohol that I drank during that particular podcast. You know? It's like, I don't know how I'm mixing these two fuckers up, but I've done it. I did it.
But I used to love me some Bridget Wilson, but she doesn't act anymore. It's like, I think she went into retirement in like 2004, 2006. She only came out of retirement for one thing and one thing only.
Okay.
And that was basically to reprise her role as Sonya Blade for a DLC pack for Mortal Kombat 12, the game. They used her likeness, and she did a lot of recordings of all the voices that Ronda Rousey had done, just to go with that one skin. And I use that skin over Ronda Rousey's anytime.
I'm not fond of Ronda Rousey, the actress.
Neither am I. It's one of those things, like, there was a lot of scenes in Mortal Kombat 12, the game, that required a little bit more emotional depth, and she just did not have it.
Like, I watch wrestling infrequently now. I used to watch it a lot. but I've seen her as a wrestler, and she's good as a face. She's good as a good guy. Mm-hmm. But, like, never have I ever been impressed with her trying to be a bad guy in the ring. Never. She's tried it a couple times.
I know she was good at MMA. Like, I can give her that. And, like, there was a movie I saw her in where she basically just played, like, she played like a Glamazon who could fight. She didn't really have a lot of lines or anything. I was like, you're great at that.
She was in The Expendables.
Was she?
Yeah, she was in The Expendables. I think, was it 2 or 3?
It probably was 3, because I remember, I haven't seen them, but I know Charisma Carpenter, who played Cordelia on Buffy, was in 1 and 2 as Jason Statham's girlfriend or wife.
Oh, Charisma Carpenter, that's it. Okay, sorry, I'm saving that in my brain for something else. I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Thank you. That's the name that I was trying to think of, and it's like, that's who I was thinking of. That's who I was trying to think of.
She's such a gorgeous woman.
Exactly. Have you seen Bound?
No.
Full nudity.
Is she in it?
Sorry.
I mean, I've seen her Playboy covers.
I had the Playboy. I know.
It's like she got some nice fake yabos.
Impressive, yes. They weren't there.
I think she got them while she was on Buffy.
I was going to say they weren't there, and I thought she got them on Angel.
She got them in season 3 of Buffy.
Was it see? Okay.
If you watch season 2 and then watch season 3, it's like noticeably different.
Honestly,
for me,
Cordelia wasn't my thing on that show. I think I had a thing for Willow and what's her face?
Anya.
Not Anya.
Tara.
I'm trying to remember. She's one of Glory.
Okay, Glory was amazing in Buffy. Like, I loved Glory. I hated Dawn. I was like, y'all could have found something else to put the key and have Glory go after that.
Right. I thought she was. She had a pretty badass attitude. I liked her when she was on.
I actually met Glory or Claire Kramer at DragonCon.
She was in Coyote Ugly too, wasn't she?
She was in. I don't think she was in Coyote Ugly. She was in Bring It On.
I could have sworn she was in Coyote Ugly too, but maybe
she might have been. It's been such a long time since I've seen it, and it's not a movie I would revisit that.
I think my wife loved the movie, and so I watched it enough that I've grown a liking to it.
It's like I also know Piper Parabo's in it. Parabu, whatever her name is.
Yeah, I remember her distinctly, not just for that, but an obscure film called, it was called, I don't remember what the name is now, but it used to be called Slap Me, I'm French. Right. She basically played this girl who infiltrated a Texas cheerleader's home, basically. Kind of came over as an exchange student and kind of took over her entire life and sort of like became her.
Yeah.
And the movie was called Slap Me, I'm French, but they had to change the name so it wouldn't cause issues.
See, now you're making me want to watch Sorority Boys.
Sorority. That was a great film.
It was funny. And
wait, I'm thinking of the right things. Barry something or other and Harlan Williams and
Michael Rosenbaum.
Yes, okay.
Who played Lex Luthor on Smallville.
Michael Rosenbaum. That is a guy that I have not seen enough of post Smallville.
He was probably, to me, the best Lex Luthor that's ever been cast.
I agree. I think he was probably the best. I can't think of a Lex Luthor I liked more than him.
But in fairness, we have I think he left in season 8. Because I think him and Lana left about the same time. Actually, he's the reason Lana left. But, we had at least, almost 8 seasons of him being fleshed out, not just one-sided, one dimension.
Yep. Hey, there's the racetrack going on behind me again. So
just so y'all know, this always happens. We're about to talk about one thing and we'll go off on everything else.
I can't edit that out because you were in the middle of talking about something. So if I edit that out, it's nice weather, so the people with the loud machines are going by my house on a daily basis. We got the guys with the souped up cars that it sounds like they're driving around without a muffler, but they're driving around with something that enhances the sound from their muffler. So it sounds like it's a drag strip outside of my house.
Damn.
So
wait, where did we even leave off? Oh, we were talking about movies that we walked out on or didn't
movies
like.
We ended up talking about Tommy Boy, and we walked out, and then somehow we were talking about Charisma Carpenter's breasts, and it just moved on from there. So
I love that. That's one of the keynotes.
Right.
Charisma Carpenter's breasts.
We lingered on her breasts for a little too long, and then we kind of started talking about Buffy, then Michael Rosenbaum, and we just This is where the ADHD part of the podcast comes in. You know, we're talking about one thing, we're on a good track, and then, oh, squirrel! What's that?
Ooh, pretty penny.
So, okay, moving on, we're going to go to rental stores. I have a lot of odds and end rental store experience. What would you say is probably, can you remember the first thing you personally, not like your parents or anybody else, but you personally rented from a video store?
They were basically all gone by the time I turned 18.
God, I feel old. I feel old. Wow.
So it's like having my own debit card and all that stuff. It's like, you know, yeah, I had one when I was like 17 because that's when I had my first job and first car and everything. But I really didn't go rent movies or anything. Like when I was working at a place called Papa's Pizza, it's like I started buying all the seasons of Buffy on DVD and started watching those again.
How long did you spend in the Athens area? Like, you didn't grow up there, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
They've had Vision Video down there forever. They weren't all gone. They were still there when I left.
I didn't go to them.
Oh, you didn't go to them. So it wasn't that they were gone. It's just not something you were going to go to.
Yeah. Especially since by the time Redbox was around or starting to come around more often. And
so what's the first Redbox rental that you can think of?
Oh, God.
By the way, I hate Redbox. So I'm going to leave you with that.
I can't lie. I did like Redbox. I didn't like having to go and like return it by the next day or getting charged a lot more money.
I just miss the human experience of dealing with a physical store, and I felt like the Redbox took... I'm big about community when it comes to film, and I think Redbox took a lot of the community out of the viewing experience when it came to rentals.
Well, don't get me wrong, like as a kid and like as a teenager when we would go to Blockbuster, I'd personally rather look at the physical box and read the back of the box or see pictures to see if that's something, because most of the boxes had pictures on the back, like see if that's something I might want to see, because sometimes you could read something and it's a great synopsis and then you get it and the movie is shit.
I mean, I'd much rather do that than stand in front of the Redbox swiping left like some big old movie Tinder, you know. Or then
when people get behind you at a Redbox and it's like, this is like they're just waiting on you. It's like, you know, at least when you're at a rental store, it's like you're waiting for the customer, and it's like you got other things you can look at while you wait.
Right. You can go look around at things. You're waiting in line, and honestly, when you're at a rental store, sometimes they have more than one person checking you out.
That is true.
Because once you're in line, you're just checking out. You're not flipping through anything. It's not like you walk up to the store at the counter and be like, okay, hand me the catalog. I want to see what I can rent today. And all the videos are behind.
Here's the question: Does using allowance money count as renting something for myself, even though my parents had to do it?
Well, I mean, you're using your money.
So, very first game, because I was huge into my Super Nintendo when I would go to my dad's, and my mom didn't ever go to rent movies, so it was always a weekend thing when I went to my dad's. First game I ever rented was probably the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger for Super Nintendo.
First game I ever rented was literally an entire PlayStation 1. Like the first run PlayStation.
Do that?
Yeah, they used to rent when video games started being a big thing, like when the first Sony PlayStations came out, most rental stores got right into it. They were bringing in the games, and you could literally rent these like briefcases with all the equipment inside to bring it home, and it was never cheap. I will tell you that. You're not going to rent all that equipment for like no money. It was like, you know, $20-something in like 1990s money is pricey. Pricey. Yeah. So you're renting the entire machine, and then you've got to also purchase the rentals, the video game rentals, and you can get the old video game rentals. They were like $4.99 for like 3 nights, or you can get the new rentals, which were like $6.99 for 2 nights. It was expensive.
Yeah.
Expensive. And the video games were always the things that rarely ever came back on time. So, racking up them late fees.
Gosh, I remember one time my dad would always rent, like, every single weekend that I'd go over there. We'd always go to Blockbuster. Like, we'd probably go to Pizza Hut, go to Blockbuster, and he would always get, like, 2 movies, and he'd always get me 2 games, because my sister would watch movies with him, but I was always the one who wanted to sit sit and play my game. So I always got 2 games. Like I remember they had a Sega and then they had a Super Nintendo. Like for the Sega, I remember I think I got Streets of Rage at one point.
Oh God,
and then
Streets
I
of
also
Rage
got
is amazing.
and then I also got the Beavis and Butthead game.
Altered Beast. Do you remember Altered Beast at all?
No.
No. Okay. Okay, that's my brain.
It might be on my Switch.
I'm thinking old school Sega Genesis. You know, so that's.
Yeah, it's like I don't remember a lot of the games from it, except of course Sonic the Hedgehog.
Of course.
But,
well, who doesn't remember Sonic?
But it's like for the most part, it was more like he rented me games that I saw I wanted at the time. And it's like I can't remember over half of them because like for the most part, most of my life, especially my mom, it was like when I lived with my mom, I always only had a Game Boy. When it was with my dad, Super Nintendo, and a Sega. So it's like I pretty much stick to the Super Nintendo.
I want like one game where it's like an open world game with all of the like odds and end platformer characters. You know, like you had like Sly Cooper and Banjo and Kazooie and Gex.
Oh God!
Right, and just have them all in one game. Just this big open world game.
That'd be cool.
Come on,
that'd be kind of cool.
It would be just all the obscure titles from like. You know, like how they did like Space Jam, where they had like Warner Brothers brought in like all that one scene for like all of their characters from different movies and everything. I just want all the obscure characters.
You want a Who Filmed Roger Rabbit type of thing,
but for video games,
all the obscure characters.
Just a big open world game. It could almost be like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit kind of thing, where you're going around and investigating who killed Bubsy. I don't know.
Who killed Cubert?
Who killed Cubert? Okay.
That makes me want to watch Wreck-It Ralph.
I used to play Cubert. I had the old Atari systems.
I never played. Like I've played Pitfall, but that was only because of Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
I'm sure there's an emulator somewhere where you could figure out how to play these other games.
I have it. I have an emulator on my PC.
Cubert.
I might have to do it, and I'll stream it if I do.
I'm still talking about Cubert here. I'm surprised.
You get like, play Cubert!
You see all sorts of updated Pac-Man stuff. I am surprised that nobody has done an updated Cubert game. It was a very simple game. It's like a pyramid, right? And Cubert just kind of hops up and down the pyramid, changing the colors so everything's one color.
Huh.
It was an interesting game.
It's like... Pac-Man might have gone through like a whole bunch of stuff, but I'll still play the original Miss Pac-Man.
I used to play the original Miss Pac-Man at a local arcade. So, yeah.
See?
Yeah. I'm old.
I used to love that.
I am ancient.
You're old.
Look,
the mall still had an arcade when I was growing up.
Yeah, but I can remember the arcade that I had, like, had all the ancient machines. The Galaga machine and the Centipede and...
We had those at the skating rink.
Did you have like what was it?
We had Asteroid, we had Mortal Kombat 2, we had Miss Pac-Man.
Space Invaders?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, we did.
I mean, I
remember I played that one and I played Asteroid a few times.
That's all I want.
Oh, and of course, Galaga.
I just want, for myself, I just want a man cave with all these old school video game cabinets. That's what I want. And that one Kiss pinball machine that they put out. Because I'm a big Gene Simmons fan.
I didn't know they put one out. Hey, Kiss is awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah, Kiss is awesome. Trust me, I'm on board with that.
I was so pissed. COVID killed my only experience to see them in person.
What?
My birthday, just before COVID, that earlier on that year, for my birthday, Serenity purchased me a set of tickets to go see Kiss for their final tour.
Oh, God.
They canceled the tour, but like had like a rain date or a COVID date, I guess at that point is what it was. And it was still, COVID was still rampant enough that neither of us felt comfortable about going out to a big crowd of Kiss fans in New Hampshire. No. I'm not. So many people talking about, I don't want to wear masks. I'm not going to wear masks. I am not going to stand at a crowd of thousands of people with no masks.
I was one of those. I didn't want to wear a mask. I wore a mask to go into stores and stuff, only because I didn't want to hear the shit. But like, I didn't catch COVID until one of my roommates who's a nurse brought it home.
I was one of those that you could not take my mask from me. I will wear this mask until you pry it from my cold, dead ear flaps. I'm telling.
Ear flaps.
Well, I'm not holding it in my hands, am I? It's attached to my ears, right?
I wore a mask. I did wear a mask this past year at Dragon Con, like into certain places, but like they had us wear it to the like Walk of Fame, which is where all the like famous people are. But once I saw all the actors and shit not wearing them, I was like, fuck this. But also my mask went with my Melina costume, so it's like I didn't have a problem wearing it for the most part.
Well, then, it's not technically a mask. It's part of your cosplay. I mean...
Yeah, but it's like, I took it off a lot because my friend who I met on Twitch, and then she came to Dragon Con, like I met her, and over half the time she had me drunk but functional somehow. Like I was able to walk around everywhere and go with her, but she kept giving me drinks.
My face rarely ever got the relief of the mask lines. The line that the mask made on your face from having been on there for 8 to 10 hours a day. You take it off at night, and it's just that line.
It's like when you wear glasses.
Yeah, and you have to moisturize under there, too. That mask rubbing against your face all day long, it causes chafing.
See, that's a good thing about being a girl. Makeup. Of course, then you pull off your face, and there's next thing you know, you're just looking at the back of the mask, and it's just your face.
You're trying to pretend, as a man, I've never worn makeup.
But do you wear it on a daily?
No.
See?
Okay, I mean, I don't have any other response for that. I've worn makeup, but it's usually when my kids used to strap me down in a chair and be like, we're putting on the clown makeup today, Dad. And I'm like, okay. All right, fine. We had whole clown makeup stations, and they would just paint my face whatever they wanted to.
When your kids, especially when you had, at least a daughter, when they say, Daddy, I want to play with makeup, and you cannot say no.
Oh, I can definitely say no. I never did, but I could definitely say no.
As Ursula would say, how rude.
Hey, just because I could doesn't mean I did,
I'm actually wondering if this upcoming Little Mermaid film is actually going to make me wish I didn't spend my money on it.
So let me ask you, getting back to the subject at hand, rather than me putting on makeup, do you have any memories of actual big box media stores? I mean, did you guys have Suncoast Video?
It's like the only thing I can think of that was outside of Blockbuster besides Vision Video was probably this one place. When we were talking about the cow, I said I was going to come back to this. Okay. It was a place called Movies, and their logo was a cow. And it was literally called like Moovie.
Did they,
it's called Movies.
Was the place cow themed?
No, just their logo. Like they had a cow for like that popped out of one of the O's for Movies.
I mean, I feel like if you're going to make a sign like that for your store,
the inside should be kind of cow printed.
You need to commit to it. I mean, you need to commit to it. Like, you need to make
They can't all be Woody from Toy Story.
I mean,
or Andy.
You gotta, like, have somebody behind the counter wearing a cow costume with the udders and everything. Oh, I'm Jefe the cow, the country cow, and I'm here to help you with your movies. I don't know, something.
It's an utterly fabulous day.
An utterly fabulous day. You gotta give them a book of all sorts of cow puns. It's gotta. You have to commit to the experience. You can't name yourself something that has to do with a particular object and then have the store be devoid of it.
When it's the next person alive, you can't say next. You have to be like, move it.
The very least, you should have had an entire section of movies that featured, at some point, cows.
The number one being Twister.
Babe, Top Secret, Kung Fu, or Kung Pao, Enter the Fist, where they had an entire scene where he fought against a Kung Fu cow. I mean, come on.
Sorry, you said babe, and I'm just thinking, that'll do, pig.
That'll do, pig. That'll do. James Cromwell. Gotta love him.
End, oh, God, he was so creepy in American Horror Story, though.
Right.
He was great, though.
I haven't seen it. I have not seen anything of American Horror Story.
I'm not gonna tell you what happened. I'm just saying he is creepy but great.
Mind you, I'm not a TV guy, so unless it's something that I'm watching with the family, I'm not really watching.
American Horror Story, to me, every season, except for maybe season, might have been 6, was worth it to me.
Okay.
It's like there's some things I complain about, like, I don't know, like there was one season there was a song that was sang, but for the time period of the that season, that song definitely had not been released. That person that they even mentioned in the song was not even a big name at the time.
Okay.
So like that's like my only grump.
I have a lot of memories of the big box stores themselves. I used to work...
What is a big box store?
I call them big box stores, just big box media stores. So, like, back when I was a teenager, my first jobs, what I would do is I would literally work all week long, specifically so that I could go on Saturday and Sunday. I would leave Friday night and go to Boston, and I would just wander around Boston all weekend. Mm-hmm. There in downtown Crossing in Boston, they had large media stores. So, like, Tower Records and Newbury Comics. Before, we started streaming all of our music and streaming all of our movies, these stores catered to people that wanted to buy CDs, DVDs, records, cassettes, movies. And you would have things, so they would deal...
a few of those stores.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we did have a few of those stores. That's like, now that you put it in a perspective, like, because I didn't know exactly what you meant. It's like, we did have a few.
Imagine like a Newbury Comics. Like, you see them in the mall all the time, right?
Mm-mm.
No, you don't see Newbury Comics in the mall?
Our mall is dead.
Oh, you're right over there by what, the Athens Mall over there? What is it they call it? Is it the Peachtree Mall? Georgia Square?
Georgia Square Mall. Yeah, it's like, I could go to the Mall of Georgia, and I might see that stuff, but it's been so long since I've been to the Mall of Georgia. The only thing I remember is a Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, I know that your mall, like, right where you are, is definitely... They chase away a lot of the good stores, and you're left with the garbage.
Well, it's not even that. Like, they're actually now, someone else has bought it and turning it into a living, eating, like, place to actually live in and everything else. And actually still have a food court somehow. But, like, it's going to be like a 5-year project. And I just found that out when I was working at K's at the end of last year.
Well, good riddance to that mall, then. I didn't like it when I was living there. I rarely ever went to it. I would have rather have gone an hour out of my way.
There was a lot more better stuff when I was younger that was there.
I would have rather gone to the Mall of Georgia.
Well, duh, it has a skate park.
Yeah. Newbury Comics and Tower Records and all these other stores, Sam Goody. If you went around Boston, most of them were at least 3 floors tall. I think the Newbury Comics in downtown Crossing at the time was about 5 floors. So each floor had a specific theme. Like, they had books on one floor and, like, the odds and ends and collectibles on another floor. And then you'd get your music on another floor, your movies on another floor. And
Dang.
It was a sizable place. And it just, all weekend, just browsing this random crap. I remember... There were so many media stores and used thrift media stores, and that was my thing. I loved it. You don't see them anymore because most people would rather sit at home and stream their movies than go out and purchase shit off the shelf. Not a lot of people like the physical media. You got to go to... I have a list of different companies that I go to now for, like, special edition things that you're not going to get in the stores, but I would die to have some of these as actual physical stores local to me. Honestly, I would.
Like, sound like me. There is one thing, like, I plan to buy physical because they came out with it on Blu-ray.
Okay.
And it's an old miniseries. Okay. Like, it's called The 10th Kingdom.
Oh my god, John Larroquette. 10th Kingdom. Yes.
Kimberly Williams. Diane Wiest.
That is definitely...
I have it on my wish list, like on Amazon for when I get paid. It's like $50 for the 15th anniversary on Blu-ray.
Where'd you get that? Where was that? You're gonna have to send me a link.
It's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Fine, I'm going to get that. I remember loving that.
I love that. I have the DVDs, like the 3-piece DVD set.
Never had the DVD. I had the VHS cassette.
See, I never had the VHS, only because my mom couldn't afford it back then. But, like, I remember one year on my birthday, like, even speaking of this, like, in my teens, like, I saw it at Blockbuster. I convinced my stepmom to get it and watch it with me in one weekend because, you know, it's 7 hours long. So, actually, it was like 10 hours while the deleted scenes. But, anyway, I got her to, you know, rent it, and she watched it with me. She loved it. And it was one thing I asked for my birthday. And I remember that year we went to a place called China Star. It was on the west side, right beside where Target used to be. But we went there, and I remember, like, my family came. We all sat down. I started opening gifts. I got a lava lamp, and then I got this picture of the 10th Kingdom. They're like, you are getting it. It's just not here yet. It's on the way. So I was so excited.
I actually just purchased 2 movies recently that I probably shouldn't have, but I did anyway. So I love all my really, really, really bad movies. And I mentioned this to Sarah on the top of the podcast, but seeing as you guys didn't really meet in the middle this time around, I got to get you both on the same podcast. I think it would be fun. But I love these little groups like... there's Arrow Entertainment, there's Severin Films. A lot of them are really built around obscure, either bad or unappreciated films. And Vinegar Syndrome recently had a sale. They did an ultra high definition 4K Blu-ray release of Showgirls.
Is that the one with Elizabeth Berkley?
Yes, Elizabeth Berkley.
Oh, God.
It's starring in the film that she feels ruined her career. And I'm like, honey, you did most of the film nude. You went from Jessie Spano to vicious stripper showgirl. There was going to be a disconnect with your general audience, the people that loved you growing up.
See, and it's people like, okay, back then, it's like, if you played a wholesome character, when you went to go break out of that, you didn't go full hardcore for it. Like when Miley Cyrus went from Hannah Montana to doing her stuff with Wrecking Ball and everything else. Like,
yeah, Wrecking Ball
nowadays,
and literally, yeah, she went off
all
the
her
deep
music
end.
videos in that era.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, in that day and age, sex sold, raunchy sold. But with her day and age, they saw you as one thing and you try to break out into something way completely different than what they wanted you as.
I really think
it's like,
that...
I can't have ruined her career too much considering she's on the reboot.
She's doing a bit better now. I think she's starting to get little things here and there. You definitely see her all over the place. It's just not in anything terribly big yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Like as long as that paycheck's coming.
Personally, I think of all the people that were on that show, she should have gotten the fair shake. Like, she should have been in a lot more than she was, and Mark Paul Gosselaar definitely should not have been.
Heck, Tiffany Tesson? Is that her name?
Tiffany Thiessen?
Yeah, her.
Tiffany Amber
Didn't she
Thiessen.
play Kelly?
Yes.
I didn't watch a lot of Saved by the Bell growing up.
No.
But it's like, I remember some of the actors. It's like, I mean, hell, the one who played that Slater guy, I mean, he looks like a big dimple.
Why can't I remember his name? He had the dimples. He's always had the dimples.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name for the life of me, though.
Oh my God.
I know Mark Paul Gosselaar. I know Tiffany Amber Thiessen. I can remember fucking Screech, Dustin Diamond. God,
every time I think about his name, I think about Diamond Dallas Page.
I should be able to remember Slater's name because he is fucking everywhere. And he's in all of these Lifetime... Mario Lopez. He is in all these Lifetime Hallmark Christmas movies that my wife absolutely loves.
Well, so is Candace Cameron Bure.
We don't talk about her. No, we don't talk about her. I barely talk about the Melissa Joan Hart thing where she's everywhere and all these little things.
I actually like Melissa Joan. But then again, I've seen her play various different types of roles.
I do like her, but she plays just sort of a slight variation on the same character and everything that she does. Rarely does she step outside of the box.
There's a movie.
There's a movie.
Okay. And I want to say, oh God, I gotta look it up. I've got to look it up because I think you would actually like it, and she does not play the same character.
Okay. I mean, I'm all for it. One of my favorite things is when characters or people step outside of the box of what they do as a norm.
I want to say it's called 5 Dead.
5 Dead. What? Okay.
Is this all TV?
Come on, tell me it's a horror movie or at least a thriller or something.
It's a suspense type thriller.
Okay.
It's almost like Saw, but different. But
Melissa
it's like,
Joan
it's not,
Hart in Saw. No, that really turns me off. That does.
It's not 9 Dead. It's called 9 Dead.
I was going to say Clarissa explains.
Clarissa explains it all.
Clarissa explains the Saw.
Clitora?
What?
Clitora explains it all.
One of those obscure She-Ra characters that nobody talks about. Clitora. I have the power. Oh my God, Clitora, put that away. This is a kid's show. Anyway. All right, so that's 5 dead, you said? Wait.
9 dead.
9 dead, okay. This is like a 9...
I thought it was actually good.
Okay, it sounds like it might be like a take on an old movie called 9 Little Indians.
It's more of a take, like... Alright, you know how in Saw, basically, everyone has something to reveal?
Right.
That's how this goes. But it's not like everybody's... if I remember correctly, it's not like everybody's dying in some horrible torture chamber to find out what that common denominator is.
Why not? Come on, somebody torture her.
You just want to see Clitora die?
Just somebody wreck... I'm just going to say, somebody wrecked the Clitora. I am having issues today. It's been a long work week. No, I mean, I went to the mall and I frequented... I'm bringing it right back. I went to the mall and I frequented a lot of stuff. I would hitchhike to the mall. I would take the trains out to Boston when it cost like $1 or something to get out there. Yeah, I would hitchhike to the mall. I used to pop out that thumb and I would hitchhike up until the day that somebody offered something to me that I said, I am never doing this again. I will fucking walk. Look, I know I got a pretty face, okay? But this guy gives me a ride home. We're having a perfectly nice conversation. I'm thinking I'm getting a ride back to at least close to where I was so that I could walk home. It is literally like it's dark out, right? And we're driving the main roads, which I'm fine with. And then he pulls over in front of the shopping area where I was going to walk from, and he goes, I can give you a little extra money if you help me out here. And I'm over here just, okay, I'm going to try to unlock the door and just fit. Yeah, no, thank you. Have a nice night. I appreciate it. I'm out of here. Bye.
You're like, I don't mind being broke. Bye.
You got to imagine. I'll show you an old picture of me. Leather jacket, long blonde hair. Like long, like bleached blonde hair. And I was a pretty boy. I wasn't this kind of scrubby looking thing that you're seeing right now. I got a face full of fur, and I'm looking a little bit more like a tired biker than anything else, minus all the good tattoos. I have worn out my welcome as a pretty face. I'll tell you. I can comment about myself. I'm allowed. And I'm not fishing for compliments. Don't worry about that. So, yeah, I used to frequent all these stores. That's where all of my paycheck went. And it frustrated the hell out of my parents as I was growing up because I lived in the house and I had these just walls full of like, not DVDs, these were all VHS cassettes. Like just walls, and I had milk crates of VHS cassettes all over my room. And it was never good movies. Never. I went there to spend my paycheck on what they would call the cutout bin or the slush bin, where they had all the movies that were 99 cents or $1.99. These things that nobody wanted to purchase, and that's why they're sitting over there. All right, so that's where I fell in love with Troma. That's where I found my first copies of The Evil Dead 1 and 2. Okay,
but those were good movies.
The Evil Dead I used for inappropriate reasons. There is a scene in The Evil Dead. All right, and you got to picture me as a guy bringing a date back to my house to sit down and watch a nice creepy horror movie. And there's a scene. This one. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the wood scene.
The wood scene. The whole scene where the girl goes out into the woods and the vines attack her, and basically the tree
make sweet love to her.
The tree has its way with her before she becomes a zombie. Yes. But that initial scene where the vine, it was not gentle. The vine just went, whoom, right? And
yeah,
you
so
just
did the barbed wire in Silent Hill.
There was not a date that I brought by my house that was not completely uncomfortable the second that scene happened. Completely uncomfortable. And for me, I don't know why, I just got some kind of joy out of making people uncomfortable.
Very first time I ever saw Evil Dead, I was probably in my late teens, and I was home alone. It was nighttime, all the lights were off, and I was watching it. I remember being so scared.
I don't think it was one of the scariest films that I've ever seen because it was just too much humor in how they presented it for me to feel really completely scared.
I think my thing was more the whole, like, when I think about it, like, I think, like, I can tell the difference between CGI and practical effects. When practical effects are done, it just looks so much more real. So it just creeped me out a whole lot more.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that movie might have deterred me from going to cabins. It really did.
See?
So
it's like I listen to all these scary stories, and this deterred me from going camping.
My family used to go and go up to Old Orchard Beach, Maine, and they would tell me, we're gonna get a cabin on the beach. And they say the word cabin, and immediately my brain goes, what kind of cabin are we talking here, guys? Right?
Does it have a basement?
No basement, nothing under the floorboards. We're good, right? Yeah? Okay. So, yeah, no, it definitely deterred me from going to anything that had the word cabin attached to it, you know?
So you actually bought The Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 and one of these slush bins at one of these media stores that you would go to?
Yeah, on VHS. Cool. They were not popular back then. These are cult following movies. Sam Raimi didn't have a heavy popular following. I had never even heard of those movies.
I don't think he had a following until Xena.
I think
Hercules and Xena.
He got a cult following for those movies after the fact. People that loved those old, obscure films. I have a lot of really cheesy horror movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that I absolutely love that nobody has even heard of. Here's a movie that I recommend to you. If you ever get a chance to find it, I don't know where it is available right now, but if I find it, I'll send you a link. It is an older film called Anguish.
And I think I've heard of it. Never seen it, but I think I've heard of it.
It has the, do you remember the woman, Zelda? I can't remember her full name. She was in Poltergeist.
Oh my god, I love that little woman. She's also in Teen Witch.
She plays this blind old woman who has a son who is an optometrist. Okay? And basically the whole film starts about her son basically going out and harvesting eyes to give to her. Right?
Oh, wow. As
you're watching the film, it pulls back, and you realize that you're actually in a movie theater watching the film with these two girls that are actually watching the film. The one girl who's laughing it up watching the horror film, and another one who's completely uncomfortable. And the remainder of the film revolves around her delusions about seeing things while she's watching the film.
Oh, shit.
So it's a really good film with a fun little twist ending. And it was completely under the radar. It's one of those films that I found for $1. And I absolutely loved it. And I'm trying to find it on Blu-ray or DVD, but I haven't seen a re-release yet. So, second I see
Amazon.
it, I'm getting it. Huh?
Check Amazon.
Oh, I'll definitely check Amazon. I haven't thought to find it. It's just one of those pleasurable memories that I have for something that I haven't seen in years. So,
I'd definitely say check, keep it on your brain, check Amazon. Heck, the 10th Kingdom popped into my brain the other night, and it was just I really want this on Blu-ray. Right. And it's I'm a person who mostly gets up I threw away all my Buffy DVDs and got it all on digital on my Xbox. Same with Xena.
I want to get the Stephen King, the original Stephen King trifecta of he had 3 separate made-for-TV miniseries for his books.
Wasn't it one of them?
It was one of them, yes. The original with Tim Curry. Still, as much as I love the current It, I loved Tim Curry so much better.
Tim Curry has actually creeped me out a lot more.
Tim Curry is fucking amazing. That being said, Tommy Knockers was a great film, a great miniseries, and of course, The Stand. No,
never seen the last.
Have you never seen Tommy Knockers or The Stand? What about The Langoliers? Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't even seen Firestarter.
Wow. Okay. I'm not
Like,
going to
I
say
didn't
that
watch
I'm
the
going to
remakes
sit you
'cause I was
down.
like-
I'm not going to sit you down to watch these because any one of them is going to require you to commit like 4 to 6 hours of your time. So,
I just got done saying I watched the 10th Kingdom, all of it.
right.
I was actually thinking about binging it again, but like,
I mean, if you enjoy Stephen King in general, go for it. These are
like
well
I don't
worth
know.
seeing.
It's like I think it is the only way. Isn't there a movie that he directed himself?
Oh, good Lord, I can't
I
remember.
hated it.
There's a lot of movies that are based off of his materials, but not necessarily things he directed.
There's one that he directed himself. It was like a bunch of trucks and electronics coming to life.
You mean Overdrive? No, Maximum Overdrive. You hated that?
My boyfriend made me sit down and watch that because he was like, "You need to watch this." He's like, "It's stupid, it's dumb, you probably hate it," but he's like, "At least watch it for me." I did, and I was like, half this shit doesn't even make sense.
I loved the film up until the ending. The ending I thought personally sucked. But I loved Emilio Estevez throughout the entire film. I thought it was a great role for him. He's got a couple of movies.
I'm not saying that the actors were bad. Like, I just didn't like the movie in general. Like, the acting was fine.
Why didn't you like the film? I'm curious. Like, what about it didn't you like?
I think it's just a simple fact that all these trucks came to life, and then next thing you know, so were all these little toys. I think somebody's hairdryer killed them.
Right. I mean, lawnmower, hairdryer, vending machine, pummeled the coach.
Yeah. It's like some of these things just did not make sense coming to life.
No, but that's the best part about it. That is... I love a movie where you have to suspend your belief in reality to get through it. I really do. There are some movies out there that if you try to think about it too hard, you can pick it apart just by pulling one little string. Maximum Overdrive is just one of those films that you watch knowing full well you're watching bullshit and you just gotta love it for the fact that it's bullshit. I'm serious.
It might be worth another watch.
You sit down, like I said, just sit down and watch it purely for the fact that it's a bunch of bullshit.
I did like the Green Goblin truck.
Of course, that was fantastic.
It was just the fact that Green Goblin was on the damn truck.
He ended up being the truck ended up being like the leader, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
The leader of all the trucks. That, and of course you had the military truck with the machine gun just kind of randomly shooting people. And Yeardley Smith screaming throughout the movie. That is probably the only thing that I think maybe I could have done with a little less.
Any heifer screaming through, like, that's probably why I don't like some of the older Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies.
Just high-pitched Lisa Simpson whining and screaming through the entire movie.
Yep.
I had so much trouble with that. So much. For all of the fact that I loved Emilio Estevez, dealing with Yeardley Smith through the movie was the problem that I had. So, I can suspend my belief to get behind all of these things coming to life. I cannot suspend my belief to figure out how the hell Yeardley Smith lived that long in the movie. Like, why these trucks wouldn't have been like, nope, that bitch is dead. Boom. All right.
That bitch got to go. She too loud.
Like, that girl right there, she's curdling my tires. Take her out. Got my oil up in a bunch. Come on. I think I got that backwards. You're curdling the oil and the tires are in a bunch, but you know where I'm going. Woo. Anyway.
Up my belts.
All right. Well, I think that'll wrap up the podcast for today. I thank you guys for sitting through an almost over 2 hour episode of Cinematic Anarchy. We haven't done a podcast of this length in a while, but it was definitely well worth it. Had a lot of fun conversation. And do you want to tell our listeners where they can find you or any place they might be able to look you up?
Y'all can find me on Twitch, www.twitch.tv/Beautiful Piper. That's BEUTIFULL_PIPER.
That's the main place, right?
That is the main place. I stream almost every day.
You're there. I know that you're on Twitter as well. Not Twitter. Instagram.
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I think Instagram is under Piper D Aaron. So it'd be PIPERDAARON, all one word.
And of course, we at Cinematic Anarchy, you can find us pretty much everywhere under Cinematic Anarchy. And, of course, unless you're looking us up on Twitter, because apparently somebody already had Cinematic Anarchy as their Twitter handle. So now it's Cinematic Anarch 1. So the 1 stands for the E part, you know.
How rude.
How rude, yes. And as our good friend Miss B would say, seeing as she's not here, drink some water, you thirsty bitches. It doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth. It never does. That's why I have her do it.
Drink some water, you thirsty bitches.
That's much better than what I did.